Good afternoon, all those individuals in our Facebook land. Thank you very much for joining us today. We are here at KRP Properties, which is also bringing this specific brand new episode to you here on Wednesdays. As you already know, we are Techopia, and we are trying to do something new and different each and every single week as we bring you insightful information on the tech industry. Today, we are jumping into a conversation with a well-renowned individual within the business industry. You have done so much, not just for business, but also supporting and also cultivating great business acumen within the city. We have the President CEO, Jim Roche of Stratford Managers. Thank you so much for joining us today, Jim.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Now, we are going to find out a little bit more, firstly, about Stratford Managers and exactly what is it you specialize in. And I would like to know also how it's come to fruition. Why this? Why did you decide it's time for us to take this experience that I've gathered over the years and, once again, share that with so many of the amazing CEOs out there?
Well, thanks for that question, Carlos. So why get started with Stratford? Well, I was really lucky in my career to have the benefit of fantastic mentors and coaches and advisors. But one of the things that I found when I was the CEO of a public company was, at that time, it was kind of hard to find the expertise that I needed. We were running at about 100 million in revenue, thereabouts, so we were relatively small in a sort of big picture. It was kind of hard to find the expertise that we needed to get to the next stage as an organization. So when I left and was thinking about what to do next, I thought there's an opportunity to fill that gap for organizations of roughly that size and smaller with the expertise that companies need to scale up, to get to achieve whatever it is they're trying to achieve.
What I love about your company is that it is that CEO advisory platform. And you really, as you said before, as you and I spoke, there needs to be that fit, there needs to be that chemistry between what you provide as a consulting service and, of course, that CEO. Now, would you say maybe your insight a little bit on maybe how important, maybe how has the landscape changed a little bit in, as a CEO, being more open to have these conversations? And it's not so much, as we said, that they need to have these conversations. It's just having these conversations to help guide, because there are so many pitfalls within the business realm, and especially when you're at that stage in scaling up.
Yeah, I think the world has changed. So there was a time when business coaches were perceived to be a negative. In other words, if the employee is not doing particularly well in an organization, I know, we'll bring a coach in. Maybe the coach can fix that problem. So a coach was a remedial thing, right? It was not a good thing. I think over the last few years, the attitude towards coaches has changed. Now I think it's perceived to be a really positive thing. When employees are given the opportunity to work with a coach, it's an indication that we think you're a really good employee. We think you've got a place in this organization, an opportunity to do more for us as an organization. You're going to grow within this company. We'd like to offer you the opportunity to work with a coach to help you to develop the skills and, I guess, address the latent talent or develop the latent talent that you might have in order to be more successful in your future endeavors. And that applies as much to CEOs as anyone else. So I think there's more of an appetite within the business community generally to working with coaches and advisors. And I should point out that Stratford does provide coaching services, but we do much more than that. We also tend to lean in with our companies and help them to achieve their objectives with hands-on assistance. And I can talk more about that if you'd like.
Yes. So yes, let's find a little bit more what that looks like. What does it really mean? Because I don't think, there's so many CEOs that watch Techopia and that is engaged with us right here within our city, and it's fascinating. We are so excited about having this opportunity to communicate what's happening in the tech industry. There's so much growth taking place. But yes, there is so much support required for us as not just a city but as a country to really achieve that global success, because all the talent is here. There is some great talent here. There's some amazing companies here, and we can just name, there's not enough fingers to just come up with of the amazing companies out there. But maybe you can talk a little bit towards what exactly you mean, how you can lean in, how you can support those companies.
Yeah, so when I started Stratford a few years ago, one of the things that I realized is that the companies that we were working with initially we'd give them really good advice. We'd say, oh, try this, try the other. And people would often listen to the advice and say, yeah, that's great. I'm going to do that. And when I checked back in with them a couple of months later, I'd be shocked to find out that they hadn't actually done it. Why not? Did you not like the advice? Did you think it was a bad idea? Oh, no, I thought it was a really good advice, just we're not quite sure how to do it. Or we were just too busy. Or, other things came up and we ended up focusing on those other things. What I realized over time was that the best way to help small and medium-sized companies to achieve their outcomes is not just through advice. Advice is important, but frankly, you can get good advice from a lot of different places. It's through hands-on implementation of that advice. It's actually sitting down and working with a CEO or working with an executive team or working with an individual within the organization to implement the advice, to get the results. Oh, you want a major account program? Here's some advice about how to do major accounts. Well, that's helpful. But I could go to a bookstore and read a book about major account management. But to actually sit down with you, work with you and your sales team to implement the major account management program, to do it effectively with your number one customer and see the results, that's going to be more impactful. And it's much more interesting as well from the point of view of folks at Stratford. We aren't consultants. We're unconsultants in the sense that everybody at Stratford is like me. They've had a very successful career. They've learned a lot through that career in an operating role. Now we want to work with our customers to help them to achieve their objectives by applying our operating experience, our know-how to actually do things, not just the advice that we might have.
Oh, and I think that's so important because it's the execution that really plays that key role. I mean, once again, we are filled with a city with wonderful accelerators and incubators and support platforms for ideas and concepts. There's no doubt about that. But the sticking point sometimes is that execution. Yes, I have this. Can I pull through? Can I make this happen? And it's wonderful that you say from that operating perspective, you come in and you really get hands-on and moving them on to the next step. Because, I mean, once again, I'm going to point to a couple companies now, for example, like Ross Video and UI TV. And, I love Jason Flick and David Ross. I mean, and there's so many other great CEOs out there. But what was wonderful about them is that, once again, there are individuals that take action, they move forward. And I feel that when I'm in the environment of their team and I'm in the environment of themselves, it's always about what can we do? Let's not just talk about it, let's actually make things happen. And I think in their growth, it's very evident. I mean, how can you speak a little bit towards that?
Well, I mean, you just mentioned two great guys, Jason and David, both fantastic guys and with great companies, great teams. And both Jason and David have told me that they recognize the value of other ideas being brought into their teams, and also the value of people of leaning in and helping them achieve their objectives, as I've been describing. This idea of having an organization like Stratford working with your company to achieve an objective, it seems to become more and more acceptable. Like what we're finding is that both companies that are struggling and companies that are doing extremely well are reaching out more and more to us. And I think it's a testament to the model that we've developed and how we work with customers. I think it's also a testament to the quality of people that have joined Stratford. I'm absolutely blessed. We have about 65 people now in the organization, and the quality of the people is just through the roof. I mean, it's stunning how strong the executives at Stratford are. So when you work with somebody from Stratford, you're not working with somebody who may have an idea or two. You're working with someone who's been there and done that, and they probably know your industry really well. But whether they do or not, they've been in your chair. And so they've gone through the kinds of challenges, they've gone through the kinds of things that you are going through and are likely going to go through over the next little while, and have an opportunity, therefore, to say, well, you know what? You may not see this from the perspective that you've currently got within your organization, but watch out for this thing or that thing, and let me help you implement a strategy or implement a tactic to avoid that shoal or to take advantage of that opportunity.
To kind of just add on to what you just said as well, we have so many companies that's watching this that's already established and some that is maybe just starting off. What do you feel in a city like this where we're growing so much? Once again, I feel what's wonderful about Ottawa is that the ability that you have access to information and people and CEOs that is willing, there's very rare that you can access and get information from so many wonderful people within this, and we have experienced technology CEOs that's now also going into other positions, into other companies as well, because they bring both new technology information and also experience from past technology information into those various companies. Maybe you can speak a little bit towards to maybe CEOs transitioning sometimes in that scaling aspect of things. So when they scale, they transition. Sometimes they either pass on the CEO title to someone else, or they say, hey, you know what, maybe our company is ready to be taken over by somebody else. I step out. I mean, maybe how do you guide and support companies on that aspect of things?
Okay, it's a very specific question. So yeah, you're right. A lot of startup companies, the CEO is the best person to run that company up to a point in time, or up to a certain size, at which point it may be best for the company, for the CEO to transition into another role, to hand the reins over. There's no formula for that in my experience. Obviously, there are some people that are capable of taking the company from the very beginning up to a very large organization. David Ross and Jason Flick would be two great examples of that. I think they're super competent CEOs, and I don't see a limit to their abilities to lead their companies through continued growth. But that's not true for everybody. So it is challenging. It's tough. Being a founder CEO, to recognize that you may not be the best person to lead the organization now, as the company is, reaching new scale and reaching new objectives. It takes a big person to be willing to hand the reins over and bring someone in. You asked how we coach people through that. This is only one aspect of the sort of stuff we do, but one of our principles as a company is we believe in the companies that we work with. We wouldn't work with them otherwise. We respect them. We don't believe that we've got the answers. Sure, we've got a lot of experience and we've got a lot of ideas, but we really believe in the people. We'll be direct. So, Carlo, I'm sorry to say this, but it is my opinion that the best thing for your company, and probably the best thing for you at this stage, is for you to hand over the reins to someone else. I want to explain why I have that opinion. I want to hear your feedback. You may have a different perspective. You may change my mind, but let's talk about it. I want to share my viewpoint with you. And then if you agree with me, let's talk about how we would go about making that transition such that you could affect the transition seamlessly and continue to have a key role within the organization moving forward.
No, thank you for that. And I wanted to bring that up because I believe our city's at such a point where there is so many mergers and acquisitions taking place. There are CEOs that, as you said, are at that point where they realize it is a time for me to move on to something else. And they make many of those decisions. As you say, they are in the right space of mind. They understand their company. They know they need to grow. And it's with input like yourself and from your team that help guide them through that process. For those of you that's watching this, once again, we are at KRP Properties. As you already know, more than just space, they are our key sponsor for making this episode happen, and they're also part of helping us facilitate an extra weekly show here on Wednesdays where we're going to talk more tech. Today I am with the President CEO of Stratford Managers, Jim Roche. Thank you so much, Jim, for sharing with us a little bit of insight on what you do as a company and, of course, how the landscape is growing and changing. Maybe I'll just speak to this once. You've been in Ottawa now your whole career. You have seen our business community grow and connect and, just take over the world on so many aspects. But maybe how do you see business, how's your outlook for business and maybe Ottawa even for the next 5-10 years?
Well, it's very positive, actually. I think Ottawa is a fantastic place to do business. Ottawa is a little bit unique. I don't know if our viewers would share this opinion with me, but my belief is that Ottawa is the best place to do business. And I'll tell you why. It's because people in Ottawa want to help each other. If you had a problem and there was someone down the road that you thought could help you with that problem and you called them, the probability is they're going to say, yes, Carlo, I'd be happy to help you. What can I do? Not every community is like that. This is a very tight business community, and there's a very high degree of willingness for people to help each other. It's a great tech community as well. We've got fantastic technology here, fantastic technologists. We benefit from having the federal government here We benefit from having the NRC. We benefit from having University of Ottawa, Carleton. We've got some fantastic local companies that have grown up, like Mitel, Shopify, and I could mention many, many others. But we also have some fantastic foreign companies that have big development centers here, like Huawei and Ericsson and Nokia. It's a great mix. I mean, I think it portends future growth for the city, and I'm very bullish about it.
Well, thank you so much, Jim. It's great to hear that from someone like yourself. And for those of you that's watched this today, make sure that you stay tuned. We have our weekly episodes coming up. You can also catch this on techopia.ca. Make sure that you subscribe, like this page, share this information as we share more about the tech community here within Ottawa. Thank you very much once again, Jim, for joining us. Have a great day. Bye.
Thanks, Carl.